Good evening. That's what I was waiting for. Good evening. We will call this meeting to order for the March 24th, 2022 Apple Valley City Council meeting. Just a couple brief announcements before we start. For our in-person attendees, when your item is called, please approach the podium to address the council. For anyone in our virtual audience, if you have anything for the public comment section, please press the raise hand symbol and the meeting organizer will let us know you'd like to speak. With that, the first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd ask all to rise and join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It was good to hear that many voices behind us as we did that. It's been a long time. So, second item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. And Tom, do we have any changes?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we have no changes to tonight's agenda.
We have no changes. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Grindal, a second from Melander. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, that item carries. The next item on the agenda is the audience participation portion of the meeting. This is for items not on the regular agenda. We have a total of 10 minutes for this segment. Meeting organizer, are there any questions or comments from the virtual audience?
There are no comments from the virtual audience.
Thank you. I didn't see anyone signed up in the room. Pam, has that changed? If we'll still offer it if there's anyone who would like to speak to this section. Seeing none.
Back here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please come forward if you'd like to speak for an item that's not on the agenda. Yeah, please come forward. You can state your name and address for the record. Yep. Just at the podium up there. Can you face us? Come around the other way, and that way the camera can pick you up as well. You bet. Sorry.
Hey there. All right, my name is Chris Luigi, live in Apple Valley. Just here seeing what's going on in Apple Valley with the local community. Also,
Chris, can you just state your address for the record so the city clerk can pick it up?
7280 158th Street West, Apple Valley.
Thank you. Thank you. Proceed.
And so I just wanted to mention, see what you guys think about convention of states. It would bring the power back to the city, back to the state. So if anyone has any questions on that, feel free to ask me. That's about all I got to say.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I don't see anyone else, so we will move on to the consent agenda. These items are considered routine and will be enacted with a single motion unless a council member or citizen requests to pull an item. Council members, are there any items you would like to pull from consent? No. Meeting organizer, are there any items from the virtual audience to pull from consent?
There are no items.
Thank you. And for anyone in the room, are there any items that you would like to pull from consent this evening? Seeing none, I take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
A motion from Goodwin, a second from Grindal. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, consent items all carry. That brings us to our regular agenda. The first item is introductions and oaths of office of firefighters, and Chief Russell is going to take us through this item. Two quick things. Councilmember Bergman's a bit under the weather this evening. He regrets not being here, but he also figured with a full room he would do the right thing and stay home this evening. I know he's watching intently as we do this evening. And then for families and friends of our firefighters, please, as we do this, feel free to come up here and get some good pictures if you need to. We want you to be able to record this moment as well. So with that, Chief Russell.
Mayor Hoopa and Council, thank you for allowing us or for hosting our badging tonight. So probationary firefighters, why don't you come on up here with me? So it started for our probationary firefighters 2 years ago in April of 2020 when they filled out an application to be a firefighter. They had to go through a written test, an interview, a background investigation, a physical, an agility test, and a psychological testing before we allowed them even to attend classes. They were fully vetted out. So they started the classes September of 2020. They received certification in emergency medical responder, firefighter 1 and 2, and hazardous materials operations. And finally, after a year after applying in March of 2021, finally received their pager. So fully vetted, fully tested, ready to hit the streets. So they worked through their task books, additional job training on the job, and just this past January, their station captains gave them the okay to get the oath, or give the oath of office and do their badging. So with me tonight, we have Nate Jones from Station 1. We have Angie Ward from Station 2. Kevin Hepner from Station 3. David Girardi from Station 1. John Hankin from Station 3. Kevin Joli from Station 2. And Joshua Peltier from Station 3. Pam, you want to go ahead with the oath of office?
I,
He's eager.
Ready to go.
Just raise your right hand and read with me the oath of city office. I
David Gerard, Kevin Joli, John Hankin, Kevin Hepner,
Nate Jones, Joshua Peltier.
do
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Minnesota, and faithfully discharge the duties of the office of firefighter of the city of Apple Valley in the county of Dakota and the state of Minnesota to the best of my judgment and ability, so help me God.
And after the oath of office, we always do the pinning. So Nate Jones is going to have his station captain, Matt Karnick, come up and do the pinning. Angie Ward is going to have her husband, Derek, and daughter, Elizabeth, come up and do the pinning. Kevin Hepner is going to have his father, Bill Hepner, come up and do the pinning. David Girardi is going to have his daughter, Emery, do the pinning, and probably the wife, Megan, also helping. Since Emery's only 4, we want to be safe tonight, so. John Hankin is going to have his father, or stepfather, Quinn Heeman, do the pinning. Kevin Joli is going to have his son, Leo. And Josh Peltier is going to have his wife, Michelle. And again, if anybody wants to get up and get a closer picture, feel free. Go ahead and, when you're ready, do the pinning. I'm glad you pulled out your cheaters. And Mayor, if you'd like to say a couple of words too?
Absolutely. Whenever you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll let them wrap up. I'd just like to officially welcome and thank you all for serving Apple Valley as firefighters. I'm looking at the chief's memo here and about halfway through. He says they've all shown strong commitment to successfully completing training and have done a great job responding to calls as probationary firefighters. I'm proud of them, and we are too. So we're proud and honored to have you serving Apple Valley, and welcome. Congratulations.
And Mayor Hoop, council, if we may be excused for a reception afterwards.
Please do.
Thank
Hey.
you. Okay.
Thank you.
Who's the audience?
Piece of it anyway.
Most of it. All right.
Yep. We'll give everybody a few minutes to settle and make their way out, Paul, and then we'll call you up if that's okay.
Where's everybody going?
Yeah.
Great to see a lot of people. Terry's here.
Oh, I didn't see her either.
Rechtzigel Fire Department, wherever that is.
7 is quite a number, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a great gig. I know a couple of people who volunteer. They get a great retirement.
They work pretty hard
Yeah, it's, yeah, well earned.
at 3 a.m. call.
In the middle of the kids' game, in the middle of dinner, and
I was
the,
at the station one time with call rate, and it's just,
Capacity.
3.5 minutes from the guy picking up the phone.
Wouldn't that be ironic? The only one that's all the firefighters.
They came in, they hopped into these, just they couldn't move faster if they were sitting around playing cribbage.
all right, we'll go ahead and move on to item 5B, which is the Apple Valley Beyond the Yellow Ribbon 10th Anniversary Update. Paul, come on forward.
How you doing tonight?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you. I'm Paul Chelson. I'm president of the Apple Valley Beyond the Yellow Ribbon, and it is my pleasure to be here as we are celebrating our 10th anniversary. So every year I come here and I give you guys an update of what we're doing. This year I'm going to do a little back in time and start back at the beginning. And with that, let me see how I can roll here. But since I have you all here, I wanted to say a couple words while I have your attention. During most of our lives, we live in many places, moving from place to place. I grew up in Richfield, moved to Bloomington, Burnsville, Egan, and I landed in Apple Valley for over 20 years before finally moving off to the little big city of St. Paul. So you're wondering, where is he going with this? Well, regardless of how long you live and how many places you live, you only get to have one hometown. So, and for me, that will always be Apple Valley. So as I finish up my work here as the president of this organization and move on to other things, I just wanted to thank you and the city for all the wonderful memories. All right. In the beginning, let me see if I can. In the beginning. So when this started out 10 years ago, this was the steering committee. So a lot of those people you'll recognize. Some of them are here, one over there, and started out to put this thing together. Someone is not there. We're really going great here. Anyway,
Wow, touchy.
in the beginning, Proclamation was done for the city of Apple Valley. It paid off. Took a lot of work. It didn't just happen. That's Bruce Falcon. Bruce led the drive to lead this and help us become a yellow ribbon community. It took a lot of people. As we flipped through, there's a group there in the beginning when we got recognized. There we are being recognized. I was so proud to stand at Target Field when they recognized us in 2012. Very anticlimactic when I can't say swear. What the heck? There we go.
There we go.
Some more. You'll recognize a lot more of those faces. Good gosh. There we go. It's the support of the Boy Scouts has been consistent. Unfortunately, it's spring break, so they weren't all here, but we want to take a shout out for them. The Apple Valley American Legion Post, along with Lowell Huber. When the yellow ribbon first got rolled out, a lot of the legions felt we were their competitors, but the Legion here has been a partner and worked together, and Lowell was one of the people that did that. So people often ask, who are we? What is the yellow ribbon? And if you go to our website, I have a document that clearly states who we are, and check it out if you want. But then when I sit back and think what's guided me as a president and what guided us as an organization, I think of Bill Scholl. And Bill Scholl was the heart and soul of this organization since its beginning, and we lost Bill last year. But I think as I leave this organization, one of the most rewarding things was working with people like Bill and to serve our veterans. So who we are. This is actually who we are. And when I say their name, I'd like them to stand up if they're here tonight. Jay Peterson, the Vice President. Glenn Sani, Secretary Treasurer, and that's actually 2 jobs that Glenn does. Carla Tappener is our American Legion rep. Missy Nelson, Director of Volunteers. Tom Llewell, Committee Member. Dick Geiger, Committee Member. Kurt Martinson, Committee Member. Joel Hohenstein, Officer Lundberg, John Wigan, and Rich Davey, who couldn't make it tonight. Rich has been with us since the beginning too, but he'll be back in time. So, who we are? We're basically a nonprofit. We have a simple mission. We assist military-connected families any way we can. We do this by recognizing and honoring our veterans, creating pathways to support. We build partnerships, and we give opportunities for people to volunteer, and that's really important. And we provide resources. Since 2012, our volunteers have provided over 30,000, that's 30,000 hours of this service to this community helping volunteers. It's pretty amazing. What do? Santa and Friends. We recognize veterans any way we can. 4th of July parade. I think we've given out, I'll say this without really having facts to support it, but over 20,000 flags at the parade. Home and Garden Show, another place that we work. We have community events, our veterans dinners. Pandemic took a real hard hit on us with those dinners, but we're getting back to them, and we have one scheduled the 31st, and you are all welcome, as well as any military-connected families in our community. We promote our events. There's our council member there and the mayor doing a little golf. That got pretty heated. We provide assistance.
I beat him, didn't I?
Huh?
I think I beat him.
You beat him, but he contested it.
That's the version we remember, anyway.
I mean, you can't believe Mayor of Rosemont, for God's sake.
No, I know. We weren't going to let it. It was our event. He was. So anyway, back to this. Providing assistance. Those are our scouts again. Our website does a lot to provide documents. What we try to do is connect our veterans with services that are already out there. We're involved in the community doing fundraising and other things. The future. So I can tell you for sure that the volunteers in this organization, they do care an awful lot. And while I'll miss the people and the work, I'm confident this organization will continue to grow and thrive and be here for our community's military-connected families. I'll close with my favorite quote from one of my favorite people, and it's simply, we all do better when we all do better. And this organization has proved it, and thanks so much for having us here tonight, and I hope to see you at the dinner.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
And I figured this out, you don't roll it, you push it.
Yeah. So the training program is 10 years, correct, to figure out the AV system? So, in all seriousness, Paul, thank you for your years of service in leading and pulling this piece together. We're grateful for your time and the rest of the board members in that steering committee as well. It's fun to see so many of them still on the list and still active. Doesn't seem like 10 years ago we were talking about doing this either. So thank you all for what you do. John, thanks for being part of this from the beginning as well. So look forward to seeing you all soon, and glad the dinners are getting back on the calendar. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we will move on to the next item, which is 5C on our agenda, and that's to approve a proclamation recognizing Police Chief John Rechtzigel. And Tom, would you like to handle this one for us?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council and the community, this is an important item and one that we certainly do not want to slip by. I'm going to ask our chief to come up here with me, if he would. As we all are aware, Chief John Rechtzigel has announced his retirement. He gave us that notice several months ago, and since that time, there's been a series of, hey, this is your last one of these, your last one of those, and this is John's last city council meeting as our chief. And we just could not let that opportunity pass and let him leave here without recognition. And I know that there is an event later this week for his official last day on the job. But we don't want to just put it all to there. We want to do something here at the council and make certain that John understands the appreciation that we have for the service that he has given to this community. Started in 1987 with our community as a police officer and has steadily worked his way up through the years. And what a dedicated public servant, giving of himself. His wife Carol is here tonight as well. There's a family support network that's necessary to do this kind of work. And John has been very blessed with that as well. So we're very proud of what he has done with us as our community, for the public trust that he has held high and has maintained through all of his time with us. And we have prepared a proclamation, and the mayor has an official copy of that, and would like to read that to you.
I'd be happy to read this one. So, the City of Apple Valley Proclamation, whereas John Rechtzigel has been a dedicated member of the Apple Valley Police Department for over 34 years and has announced his retirement effective March 31st, 2022. And whereas throughout his long career in law enforcement, he steadily advanced in rank from patrol officer, investigator, detective, sergeant, investigative sergeant, captain, acting chief, and police chief, all within the Apple Valley Police Department. And whereas over his long career, Chief Rechtzigel continuously sought out opportunities to advance his understanding and knowledge of innovative law enforcement approaches, graduating from the FBI National Academy and earning his master's degree in police leadership from the University of St. Thomas. And whereas during his time with the department, the City of Apple Valley has grown steadily from a population of approximately 30,000 in 1987 to an estimated 58,000 today. And whereas Chief Rechtzigel has demonstrated through his long career great stewardship of the public trust placed in his care. And whereas during his time with the city, Chief Rechtzigel was a key player in many innovative advancements in public safety within Dakota County, including the creation of the Dakota Communications Center, the evolution of the ELF ambulance, the creation of the Neighborhood Collaborative Officer Program, and the establishment of the Community Impact Unit, all aimed at improving the lives of our citizens. And whereas, throughout his long career, he has demonstrated character, integrity, and leadership for the betterment of the Apple Valley community. And whereas Chief Rechtzigel and his wife Carol reside in Apple Valley, where they raise their family and develop deep roots in the community. And whereas the community of Apple Valley is a better place because of Chief Rechtsigel's tireless efforts and unwavering commitment to the public good. And whereas the Apple Valley City Council extends its thanks and appreciation to Chief Rechtzigel on the occasion of his retirement and wishes him all the best in the years to come. Now therefore, the City of Apple Valley, Dakota County, Minnesota, hereby proclaims March 31st, 2022 as John H. Rechtzigel Day in Apple Valley. Proclaim this 10th day of March, 2022. Congratulations.
You have to go back there, I want to say something.
And I know I'm not the only one with words for John, and mine were easy because they were written down. Councilmember Goodwin.
Well, I've been kidding John that he's too young to retire, but now that I see that beard he's growing, is that a white beard or did you color that?
You gave me some gray, Councilman.
Not me, these other guys. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Ruth?
Thank you for your steady leadership and keeping the city safe. I know we say it might be your last night as chief of police here, but I'm sure we'll see you again at the planning commission or urban affairs or who knows where. Thanks.
Thank you.
The new president of Rotary.
There you go.
Well,
I've been fishing with John, and I hope to go fishing again, so.
more time.
Thank you. John, anything, any parting shots you'd like to take?
I have no parting shots. I'm humbled by this. I appreciate all the support the council's given me through the years. It's all kind of a blur now, but, you know, it's been close to 35 years, and I have no regrets. I mean, Apple Valley became our home, raised our kids here. My wife and I love it here. We're not going anywhere. You'll see me around different meetings and different events in town, and I just thank you for everything. It's been great.
Thank you. You mind if we get a picture, since we have everybody here, and I think we can't do it without Carol coming up again either. That's the good one right there. Or would you like, I don't know, we'll sneak in here somehow. Everybody get one? Bruce is working on it. All right. Hey, there's a white, yeah, there's a white beard. Oh, we should probably do that.
That's cool.
Before we move on from this item, I would like to ask for a motion to approve that proclamation.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Goodwin, second from Grendel. All those in favor, give us saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that carries. Congrats and thanks again, John. We'll move on to 5D, which is the Texas Roadhouse Holdings LLC, DBA Texas Roadhouse. And Pam, you have this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Texas Roadhouse Holdings LLC, doing business as Texas Roadhouse, has submitted an application for on-sale intoxicating liquor as well as a special license for Sunday liquor sales. And that license is for a premise located at 5545 157th Street. Plans show the restaurant will seat approximately 278 people. If approved, the license would be effective beginning May 1st, and the target opening date is the end of May. The application indicates the officers are Gerald Lee Morgan, Chief Executive Officer, President Director; Tanya Russell Robinson, Chief Financial Officer; Scott Christian Jacobson, Chief Marketing Officer; Herman Edward Mahika, Chief Information Officer; Regina Ann Tobin, Chief Learning and Culture Officer; Christopher Charles Colson, General Counsel, Corporate Secretary; and Jeffrey Allen Fort, Managing Partner. Section 11124 of the City Code requires all applicants for on-sale liquor licenses to have a public hearing prior to the issuance of the license. On February 24th, the council set this evening for that public hearing. Proper notice was posted in the local paper, and it was published, and that affidavit of publication is on file. There have been no comments received from the public to date. The police department has completed the necessary background checks and finds no reason the license cannot be authorized at this time. There are two items before the city council this evening. First, the public hearing, and pending any comments from the council or public, action on the resolution authorizing issuance of the on-sale intoxicating liquor license and special license for Sunday liquor sales effective May 1st, 2022, subject to receipt of the necessary documents. This evening we have Jeffrey Fort, Managing Partner, as a representative from Texas Roadhouse, and he's would like to speak when we are done with this action, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Pam. I will start out with council. Are there any questions for Pam?
No.
If not, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. We'll start with our in-person audience. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to this public hearing? Or our virtual attendees, meeting organizer, is there anyone who would like to speak at this public hearing?
No one to speak.
Thank you. One last opportunity for anyone in the room. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this item? If not, we'll close the public hearing and we will look for a motion to adopt the resolution approving the liquor license.
So moved.
Second.
A motion from Melander and a second from Grendel. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? None. That item carries. And I believe we have the applicant would like to say a few words, so please come forward.
Hello.
Hello.
My name's Jeff Fort, managing partner for Texas Roadhouse. Thanks y'all for having me here. I'm really just here to thank y'all for bringing us to your community. We're happy to bring hand-cut steaks, fall off the bone ribs, and fresh baked bread to y'all's community. It's been a long time coming, and I'm here to answer any questions or concerns you might have.
Perfect. Tom.
When are you gonna be open?
We're looking for May 30th for opening date.
May 30th this year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Got a ways to go.
What's that? Got a ways
It
to
looks
go?
like I just drove by it the other day and it looks like there's still a ways to go.
Yeah, we're just coming along pretty quick now.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm thankful for the time that we have. Got a lot of hiring and a lot of work to do, so.
Yeah, looked good today. I was down there as well today to see what it looked like. So building's up, signs up, right? Looks like you're heating the building so you can keep working inside because the weather's not cooperating with us real well in that regard right now. But we look forward to having you open and having you in Apple Valley, and thank you for coming here.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing y'all there.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're done with that item. We'll move on to 5E, which is to adopt a resolution approving subdivision by preliminary plat of Lakeside of Diamond Path, and Kathy has this item.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Based on, I'm going to have this as a backup, just in case.
New battery, Kathy. I think it's going to work.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. The petitioners for this request are the developer, JMH Land Development, and the property owners, Randy and Carolyn Buller, and they are requesting subdivision by preliminary plat of 3 lots to create 6 lots for single-family development. 5 new lots would be constructed as part of this development. The subject site is located on the northeast side of Farquhar Lake, 8.1 gross acres. There are 2 vacant parcels, and then the northern or the northwestern parcel is the existing single-family home, and that's addressed as 13009 Diamond Path. The property is currently zoned R1, single-family residential, minimum lot size 40,000 square feet. And the DNR classifies Farquhar Lake as a recreational development lake. So that means the property also sits within the Shoreland Overlay Zoning District. The city recently updated its Shoreland Overlay zoning to make it the most current with the DNR regulations that was approved November 2021. So existing conditions, north is to the left on the rest of the slides now. 8.1 acres, as I said, 3 parcels. The home is located on the north side. A wetland has been delineated on the southwest side of the site. The site is heavily wooded with varied topography. There is a large bluff on the north side of the site. And then in the central, kind of east central part of the site, there's a large knoll. And if that wasn't complicated enough, then the lake is on Farquhar Lake is on the west side of the property, and then Diamond Path is on the east side. So the subdivision by preliminary plat shows the 6 lots to be developed. So lot 1 again would be the existing home, and then 5 new lots for single family development. The 5 lots are served by shared private driveways. The Dakota County has restricted access to the site to 2 driveway locations. So an innovative way to deal with that restriction was the use of the shared private drives with cul-de-sacs. Site plan then shows the layout of the 5 new lots. We call this kind of a spider plan. So the lots are served, the driveways, private driveways are served off of each of the cul-de-sacs. Let's see, condition of approval of the plat. As I mentioned, because of the shared access will need to be cross-access, ingress, egress, those types of agreements will need to be executed for all of the property owners. Each of the new properties will be providing buffer between the lake or between the wetland, and also infiltration basins, which do not show up very easily, but there are infiltration basins on each of the lots. Grading plan is set up in 2 phases. The first is the big plan, the developer plan. In that case, the grading and tree removal for the installation of the private streets, the home pads, the infiltration basins, and then connection to the city services. And then the builder, their building plan will be on a lot-by-lot basis based on plans as they come forward. The parcels are set up to be custom graded for each of the homes depending on the lot topography. So they'll be able to kind of fine-tune and adjust for the site. Utility plan has been reviewed by the city engineer. No significant outstanding questions at this time. They will be required to submit final approved utility plans at time of building permits. So that will still need to be finalized. Tree preservation plan shows 7,019 inches of significant trees identified, with this plan showing larger than typical building pads. So the building pads are set up right now at 5,000 square feet, which is quite a bit larger than a typical single-family home would be. So just setting up the pads, the total tree removal that they're seeing, that they're anticipating, would be 3,044 inches. So 122 replacement trees will be required. And the tree replacement plan then helps to show the areas that will be protected. So the bluff again on the north, the knoll on the east central, and then the replacement trees scattered throughout the site. Color rendering was provided by the developer just to kind of provide an illustration of how the development will look. So real quickly, some of the issues that came up during the development review, the public hearing. Should a pedestrian connection be provided? One thought was that maybe the 2 private cul-de-sacs should be connected. There would be too much tree removal and site disturbance. So instead, the development will be dedicating trail for when Diamond Path is updated in the future. How will lake access, beach, and docks relate to the requirements for lake buffer and infiltration? Each of the lots will be required to provide lake buffer and infiltration basins, but they'll also be entitled to beach. So the requirements need to work together, and we will be encouraging folks to work with our natural resources staff to make sure that it all works for them in their landscape plan. Is Dakota County aware of this project? Yes, their letter is attached in the staff report. And I won't go through then the rest. I would say as a theme for sure, the most important issue that the residents brought up is just a concern about how will the lake be protected, both during construction and then after construction. And for that, I would really guide the council to review the memo provided by the Natural Resources staff. They did a great job, laid out all of the requirements. Some of the steps that will be taken to protect the site during construction, double row of silt fencing around the entire site, temporary and permanent cover of disturbed soils, best management practices for erosion control, but maybe most important, the site will be inspected weekly and then after every half-inch rainfall event. So with that, Mr. Mayor, at its meeting on March 2nd, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the development Lakeside of Diamond Path with conditions, and the motion below would adopt the resolution as recommended by the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Kathy. Any questions for Kathy? No. Would you mind just going back one slide, I think just on 6 and 7 in there, just worth a mention that that infiltration area, I believe, was going to be cleaned out with both before and after. So, right, they will start clean when the homeowners are in there, and then we have some of these things recorded on the deed permanently. So, right, these will live beyond construction. I think those were two of the pieces that came out of the report that were probably at least worth mentioning here for some of the concerns we've heard. So,
thank you.
With that, do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Motion from Goodwin, second from Grendel. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, and that item carries. Thanks for all the work. I know this project has been a lot of work for everybody, and we appreciate the back and forth and protecting the lake and all of the work that went into it.
Thank you.
With that, we will move on to 5F, which is to adopt a resolution approving subdivision by preliminary plat of Magellan Second Edition, and Kathy's up again.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, this is a pretty straightforward request. I could go into more detail, but I think given the length of the agenda tonight, I will try and go quickly. Dakota County is the applicant. They're requesting subdivision of the Magellan pipeline property to create a 2.23 acre parcel for the North Creek Greenway Trail. So this is another segment of the North Creek Trail that's going from Egan south down to Farmington and Empire Township. So the Greenway parcel, 2.23 acres on the Magellan site. Magellan is 6451 150th Street. Again, 14-mile multi-use trail corridor. Its pieces have been put together in the south part of the city. So it is moving along as planned. The idea was to combine a multi-use trail with drainage and stormwater management, and that's really been the case down in the south central part of the city, in the reclaimed sand and gravel area. So just an outline of the trail and then the specific segment that is being looked at. 3 of the projects that have been completed that are kind of fun to look at, the zoo segment with the overpass at County Road 38, the underpass at 157th Street, and then a recent project that was approved was just picking up or finishing some of the little tiny missing segments in the very southern part of the city. So the property is guided in the comprehensive plan for industrial uses. And 2 maps within the comprehensive plan really do show the alignment, and the proposed alignment is consistent with what was shown in the plan. Zoning, the property is zoned I2, general industrial. Proposed subdivision then creating that 2.23 acre parcel. It's a strange shaped lot, and folks may think, well, it doesn't make sense to make a lot if it's not buildable, but it is serving a purpose. So the 60% plans show how far along they are with from County Road 42 up to 140th Street. There is easement on the Menard side of the trail, so both of those together will help create the corridor. This is a plan for the underpass, at County Road 42, so kind of a extensive structure. And this is just a visual representation of that. And again, the strange shaped lot, platted lot to be developed for a use which will not involve the building. So that's exactly what this lot will be. So here are some other recent subdivisions where the trail segments were platted as strange-looking outlots. And basically what that does then is that helps to minimize impacts to the adjacent property owners, just taking absolutely what's needed and not creating buildable lots. So again, this is the lot that is proposed. So with that, Mr. Mayor, at its meeting of March 2nd, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend approval of the preliminary plat with conditions, and the motion is before you.
Thank you. Any questions for Kathy? If not, we would entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Motion from Melander, second from Grendel. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that item carries. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Tom Lovelace to talk about Applewood Pointe of Apple Valley. We have a whole lot of items on this list.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. And I'll preface this with this statement that, right, what you have are several items, as the mayor stated, in fact, 6 items. Item 1 is an item that normally comes before the city council for consideration as a regular agenda item. Items 2 through 6 generally are consent items. So I'll let you decide on how far or how deep we want to get into any discussion of items 2 through 6. Again, generally those are consent items that are done and approved with one motion as part of the consent agenda. So the project that we're talking about is the Applewood Pointe, a 98-unit senior co-op building that's located in the northeast corner of Pilot Knob Road and McAndrews Road. This is the site plan that was approved way back in 2020. It shows construction of a 98-unit senior co-op building with the potential for a future townhome development in the southwest corner. The zoning map, which was also approved back in 2020, showed that the Lot 1, which consists of the location of this 98-unit development, would be part of Plan Development 1080 would be Zone 1, which would allow for apartments, co-ops, condominiums and such for seniors 55 or over. And then Zone 2, which is the outlot, would, in the ordinance, identifies that as a area for townhome development. So the purpose of the ordinance was to establish the uses and area requirements and also any performance standards for that zoning district, that Plan Development Ordinance 1080. It provides, again, as I stated, the ordinance will provide for apartments, condominiums, and residential cooperatives for persons 55 years and older in Zone 1 and townhomes in Zone 2. So with that, that's what is part of the regular agenda, normally the regular agenda item, and we are asking that you pass this ordinance recommending waiving of the second reading. With the other items, we can go into any other detail that you may want to go into, but again, as I stated, these are consent items, generally consent items.
So Tom, let's take item G1 first and entertain a motion on that item, and then we can move on to the rest at the will of the council.
Second.
So just to be clear, that's to pass the ordinance and to recommend waiving the second reading? Is that the motion?
That's correct.
All right, so a motion from Goodwin and a second from Grendel on item G1. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, that carries. Council members, on items 2 through 6, is there anything in there you would like to discuss separately? If not, I'm looking at our city attorney. Are you okay if we take these all as one motion?
Yes, you may, as long as it's clear that's what you're doing, Mayor.
Perfect. So we're looking for a motion for item 5G 2 through 6. Councilmember Goodwin?
I make the motion. I just have one comment. We have neighbors to the south across the road. Let's keep as many trees as we can between the folks south of us and this group here. any tree we can save. I'm not worried about the golf course, which is to the east and the south, but let's try to keep every tree we can between this new building and the neighborhood south of the road. I'm sorry, north, that would be north of the road.
Thank you. So we have a motion from Councilmember Goodwin. It's south, yeah. We know that we can all visualize, I think, where you're talking about. So we have a motion from Councilmember Goodwin for 5G 2 through 6. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Goodwin, a second from Grendel. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, and those all carry. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Mayor.
We'll move on to 5H, and Eric Carlson, our Park and Rec Director, has this item. This is a first reading to review ordinance amending Chapter 95 of City Code regulating parks and recreation by allowing an exception for display of firearms at sponsored events. And again, this is a first reading only, so we won't be taking action on this item tonight.
Correct. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this evening we are asking you to consider an amendment to the city code with related to firearms in city parks. So Chapter 95 of the city code prohibits certain things within parks and recreation. I've listed a few of those things in the first few bullets there, such as you can't drive a vehicle inside a park except for on a road or in a parking lot. You can't have a fire unless it's in a provided receptacle, and so on. I won't repeat all of them. 95.03 letter I deals with firearms. So firearms, bows and arrows. No person shall discharge or display any firearm, air gun, shotgun, rifle, pistol, revolver, air rifle, or BB gun. The use of bows and arrows except in designated areas is prohibited. So the example would be the archery range that we have in our park system. So this evening, our current ordinance does not allow for the display of a device as a part of a raffle or banquet at an organized event, such as a Ducks Unlimited event that they have from time to time across the Twin Cities. It also does not allow a device to be displayed as part of a Minnesota DNR gun safety training class or a similar type of a training exercise. So the proposed amendments that are in front of the council this evening would allow for a device to be displayed in conjunction with an organized event such as a Ducks Unlimited event where they often raffle off a shotgun as a part of their festivities for the evening. The proposed ordinance amendments would also allow for a gun to be displayed as a part of a fire training class that might be held in a park facility such as the banquet space at Valleywood or one of the meeting rooms at the community center as an example. The device would have to stay cased when it's being transported between the parking lot and the facility that the class or the event was being held at. The device must be fully unloaded at all times, so they can't have any ammunition in the device, and it should have a gun lock installed for safety purposes. The amended ordinance also indicates or suggests that we could not, the device could not be sold or traded as a part of the function that was going on. And then ammunition could only be permitted in conjunction with a fire training course taught by a qualified instructor. So again, this evening we're asking the City Council to consider a first reading. If the council approves the first reading, the second reading is planned to be scheduled for Thursday, April 14th. And if it passes then, the ordinance would become effective on Friday, April 22nd. I can stand and answer questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Grindle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It sounds as this is well vetted. Is there a reason we don't forego the second?
We do have one comment from somebody concerned about the ordinance, and we'd like to make sure we can address that prior to passing. I think this is from what Eric tells me, the second reading does not put this event at any danger of being canceled or not being available at their timing as well. So I think we're best to hold off on that. That's my opinion, but
that's fine.
I agree.
There's a reason.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the other reason to not pass it at the first reading is we have to have I think it's 10-day notice posted in the paper, and that hadn't been provided yet. So to stay legal, we have to wait.
We also like to stay legal.
Yeah,
so.
we like to do that.
Perfect.
That's always good.
Thank you. And I did mention the comment we had, and we are, if the person who submitted that is listening, just know we're looking into that. We got that today, and we felt it was best to continue with the first reading and get that out there and allow the other comments to come in as we continue to research that. So,
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you can expect some minor tweaks to the ordinance between now and the second reading.
Perfect. Thank you.
One more question, Mr. Mayor. So at this point, we can't have any gun safety classes at any city facility?
That would be our understanding of the current ordinance.
The ordinance was likely written without ever anticipating
And I would think that would be important in gun safety classes to be offered.
As I read the ordinance as it stands, I don't think it was written to intentionally prohibit them. It just didn't consider that type of event, right, as it was written way back when. So this is a bit of cleanup to me to allow what is kind of an incidental use. So, perfect. Thank you, Eric. We have, brings us to 5I, which is to adopt a resolution establishing precinct boundaries and polling places for 2022 elections. And Pam.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'd like to present to you this evening the proposed 2022 precinct boundaries. And cities are required to establish precinct boundaries that conform to the legislative district lines no later than March 29th, 2022. And I realize that this is the second time that the City Council will have seen this information since I presented it at the March 10th informal, but it is the first time it will be presented to our viewing audience, and it is an important part of our public education regarding changes. So following the congressional and legislative redistricting, the city is still in the 2nd congressional district. Apple Valley is now in Senate District 56, and previously we were in Senate District 57. We are now in House District 56A and 56B, and previously we were in House Districts 57A and 57B. Here are the old House districts overlaid on the current precincts, and you'll notice the city is divided pretty much east to west. And there was a very jagged line in the northwest quadrant. And I bring this to your attention because we will clean that up with our new district lines, or our new precinct lines. And here is the new House district with the proposed new precinct boundaries. And now you'll notice the city is divided north to south primarily. And there is a jagged edge in the southeast quadrant. And we'll look at the details of the new precinct boundaries shortly, but I wanted to start by showing you how we got there. The first thing I want to point out is that the new House district line splits precinct 12. And there you can see where it's split, and that's going to cause us some grief, and we're going to have to deal with that. It also will split precinct number 13, and that's it right there. So, what is involved in redistricting? First and foremost, we must stay within the district lines, meaning that we cannot have a precinct in two different districts. And of course, those lines that I just showed you cause us to have to reestablish our boundaries. Second, we look at population by census block. And a census block map looks like this. It's not a city block. But census blocks are delineated by the United States Census Bureau, and they are the smallest level of geography for which demographic data is collected during the decennial census. And since we do not have wards, our population by precinct may vary. We also look at how many registered voters there are in a particular precinct, the voting history by precinct, the polling sites, how many people they can accommodate, the anticipated growth, and of course we're expecting our most growth in precinct 15, so we want to leave some room for growth there, and then the impact to voters. So the yellow shaded areas on this map represent the areas that are assigned to new polling locations, and I want to start by showing you specifically those changes. So here in this bottom section, I showed you that precinct 13 was split. So we need to do something with this section. It can no longer be in 13. The logical place for it to go is to precinct 15. Up here, precinct 11 was, or precinct 12 was split. We've got to do something with that. The logical place for it to go is precinct 11. I guess I want to just backtrack for a minute. Precinct 13 looks pretty small here once we cut this part off, but actually precinct 13 is one of our smallest polling sites, so it's okay, and we've had a lot of growth in 13, so that is fine for it to be smaller. Precinct 11 is also a smaller polling site. It's the Independent School District Service Center, and when we add this section from precinct 12, we we can no longer accommodate what used to be in precinct 11, which is this area up here. So that had to go someplace. Where are we going to put it? The logical place is for it to go to precinct 9. Well, if we add all of that to precinct 9, well, then we need to do something with some of the other area that precinct 9 had, because that's a little bit too much. So we gave that to precinct 10. Both precinct 9 and precinct 10 have big polling sites, and they can accommodate quite a few folks. And when we moved that one section over to precinct 10, it was a little bit too much for precinct 10, so we gave a little bit back to precinct 9, and actually this works out really well because this little section in here was precinct 10, and it really is close to precinct 9, so it makes a nice boundary for us. Going back to precinct 15, we said we added all this area to precinct 15. That makes precinct 15 a little bit too big, and we're expecting a lot of growth here, so we needed to give something up, and we gave up this section right in here. Precinct 12 gave up this piece over here, so they've got a little bit more room to handle a few more voters, so we gave them this extra little piece down here. Part of that is old precinct 14, and part of it was old precinct 15. As I mentioned, precinct 15 got bigger, so precinct 14 took it. Precinct 14 looks like it's a small site, but it actually, by population, is our the highest volume, and in precinct 14. Old precinct 14 had this little section down here, and because it now has got so many people in this precinct, we needed to get rid of some of precinct 14's voters, and we put that into precinct 6. Precinct 6 used to vote at Augustana. That previously was our smallest voting site because Augustana could only handle so many voters based on the room. It now votes at the Education Partnership Building, so precinct 6 could stand to absorb some more voters in it. In this little section, there's only 10 little voters, and just to clean up the line and make it nice and square, we put that into precinct 4. This little section was in precinct 4, and the reason we're adding it to precinct 16 is because precinct 16 is a bigger polling site and has the room and volume for that. And then I told you we were going to clean up this little area once we no longer have the old district lines. So that kind of explains the changes that we're recommending. Next, I want to have you look at the school district boundary lines and point out the precinct number changes. So most of Apple Valley is in Independent School District 196, and that's represented by all the white and yellow that you see. But in this northwest quadrant, a very small section is Independent School District, 191. And so in 2010, there was a law that required boundaries to be delineated by a visual feature, such as a road, a stream, railroad, city boundary, etc. And if there was no visual feature at the boundary, the precinct needed to be divided by A and B. So this little section right here, dividing school districts 191 and 196, is a line that just runs through several backyards, and there was nothing physically visual that you could see to delineate that. So the law at the time required, if you had a line that did not have a physical feature, you had to combine the two precincts adjacent to that line and make them the same number. So at that time, we had to implement a 5A and 5B numbering system. And those A's and B's created a lot of confusion. And that law was repealed in 2016. There are very few A's and B's used throughout the state. It was the only one that we had in Apple Valley. Some of the confusion that it causes on various documents and reports, as you can imagine, logically you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it would skip to 5A and B. It would go 6, 7, 8. People wonder, well, where's the data for 5A and B? Well, because it had that alpha character, it put it at the bottom of the reports. And there's a lot of different numbering schemes that the A's and B's caused confusion for voters. They wonder, why am I 5A? Why am I 5B? Or if they're looking for a polling site, if they're coming from another place, they didn't understand that 5A and B were different. They see a 5, they thought that was their polling location. Because there is no law that we can point to justify those precincts to have a different naming convention any longer. Staff is recommending going back to using straight numbers and eliminating the A's and the B's. And we do not want to give voters any reason to think that those 2 precincts are any different for any reason than the other 14 precincts. In addition, Dakota County prefers that we eliminate the use of the A's and B's. And in fact, all Dakota County cities and precincts will be eliminating the use of ABs with this redistricting. So we do have 2 precincts that will have number changes. 5A will become precinct 16, and 5B will become precinct 5. And the reason I picked the numbering that way, precinct 5B was our biggest precinct, and so we just figured that that one would stay with the 5. If approved, the new or proposed precinct boundaries would affect approximately 11,445 people of our total population, which is 56,374, or 7,472 registered voters, or approximately 20% of our population. So how many precincts had a population increase? The ones in pink represent that. The biggest one that had an increase is here, precinct 6. They're going up by 1,232, but remember I told you that was our smallest precinct in the past, and many of those folks are still going to vote absentee because they are from Augustana and they won't be going to the polling site anyway. We've got a little increase here at the municipal center, up 291. This is our biggest precinct. It's at a population of 5,300, but we can accommodate the additional 291. And then, of course, we've got the 2 precincts up in 9 and 10. Because of the changes that we had here in 11 and 13, they had to absorb more in the population, but they have the bigger polling sites, 1,201 at precinct 9, 610 at precinct 10, and just a few more at precinct 16, but that is a good-sized polling place, and they actually could take the volume. The greens are staying the same, and the yellows are going down, and that generally does not cause any issues. So what precincts are we recommending would have changes to their boundary lines? Well, we have 11 precincts that would have changes if the council approves what is proposed this evening. There would be 5 precincts, those are identified in green, that will not have any changes to their boundaries. How many precincts are voting outside of their boundaries? So the law allows that a polling location can be within 1 mile of a boundary, and we have 11 precincts that will be voting outside of their physical boundary. However, only 2 precincts have been added to that list. So 9 of the precincts have been voting outside their precinct boundary for a number of years. It's just precinct 9 and 11 that have been added. And then, of course, we have got 5 precincts that will be continuing to vote within their precinct boundary. So after making the changes necessitated because of the new legislative boundaries, rebalancing the number of voters based on polling location, and considering all the other items that I previously mentioned, I would like to present this final map that reflects the new boundaries as proposed by staff. The city will continue to have 16 precincts, and I believe these new or proposed precinct boundaries will best serve Apple Valley this year and into the foreseeable future. There are no proposed changes to the polling locations that were approved by council back in November. These are the same locations that you adopted at that time. Looks pretty busy, but just wanted to show you that. And what are the next steps? We do need to adopt the resolution establishing the election precinct boundaries and polling places for the 2022 elections. Once that is done, I'll need to notify the Secretary of State and County Auditor of precinct boundary changes. We will need to publish and post the notice of new precinct boundary polling locations. And then really the biggest thing that we've got coming up is, and I will plan to have a strong focus on this, is educating our voters to make sure they know where they need to vote. And this will be done with a variety of ways. First, all voters in Dakota County this year All registered voters will receive a postal verification card. Those are called PVCs. That will come from Dakota County, and that will arrive at least 25 days prior to the primary election. We'll be using a variety of social media. I'll be working with our communication specialist to see how we can get that information out to our public, and then, of course, the website and newspaper. And then the new precincts will become effective beginning with the August 9th, 2022 primary election. And I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Pam. That's a lot. Again, we've seen this once before, so it's still a lot. Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I know, Pam, you've worked on this really hard. Thank you very much. I mean, this is huge. I still have an issue with the 5A and 5B. I mean, for years, we were precinct 5. And now we got used to 5A and 5B, and now it's going to be 16. And the people I'm talking to would prefer that we just leave 5A and 5B. And I don't, I've never heard there was a problem with this, with the lettering. I mean, in the last 10 years, when would it have been split? 10 years ago?
It was split, yes, 10 years ago with the last redistricting.
And so people just now are used to 5A and 5B, and now it's going to be 16. So, like I say, I can support this, except I would like to see 5A and 5B still left as is for less confusion. I mean, of the 11,445 people that will be affected with changes, how many are the ones in 16? Do you know off the top of your head?
I don't know.
She
that.
did population on the maps, I
It was, the
think, didn't you?
population was 38.
So, I'm going the wrong way. There we go.
Right there.
20,
like
so,
3,000. So I mean, it would be 3,000 less people affected by a different number. And 16 is nowhere contiguous with the rest of the, down by 15. I mean, it's just like kind of out of nowhere up there is 16. And so I would prefer it's 5A and 5B.
Councilmember Grindle, just for clarification, when I talked about the approximately 20% of the people that are going to have a different polling location, it does not include anybody in 5A and 16 as far as the number, because most of those people are going to vote at the same location. 16 voted at, or 5A or 16, whatever you want to say, voted at Hope Church, and 5 voted at,
where do I go now?
at Bethel's Rock. And so what my experience as clerk with the questions that I receive is, why is it 5A? I do get those calls every year. People are wondering why they're 5A, what does the 5A mean? Or people call and say, was at the church, they said this is not the right one because they've gone to the wrong one because they're coming from other places. They didn't understand that there was an A and a B. And they generally will look more for the number and not the A and B. They think, oh, I see a precinct that says vote here at 5A, and they think I'm at 5. They don't understand the difference. You are correct. All of our numbers are not sequential, and there is no requirement for us to do that. I did speak with folks at the Secretary of State. I could have just renumbered at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and renumbered everybody, but I didn't see a value in doing it. The only reason I had recommended, and whatever the council chooses, we can do that, is the reason I recommended those go to straight numbers, removing the alpha character, is because our county is wanting us to. There'll be no other precincts in Dakota County that will be using the A and B. And as I mentioned, we don't have a law that I can point to. Why are we using that naming convention any longer? Do folks in that area wonder, or others wonder, well, why are they numbered in that naming convention and the rest of the precincts are not? It is the council's discretion to make the decision that they choose to and number the precincts that they, in the way that they would like.
Thanks, Pam. Ruth, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure how many calls you've had about the confusion. I mean, the confusion was when it became, it had to be split. I mean, I know that I go to Hope Church. And so now people in 16 are going to say, well, where do I vote? I mean, we changed the precinct number. Where do I go now? So I think it's going to cause more confusion. I don't know how many phone calls you get about the 5A and 5B. I've never had a concern about it. And like I say, people now are saying, oh, this is gonna be more confusing, we just got used to the A and B. So anyway, I would still prefer, and I don't have a problem if there's nobody else in the county that does it this way, I don't have a problem with that.
Anyone else? I've got I don't know what the right answer is to this one. You're gonna have a change no matter what you do. The change is the confusing part. Most people, if I ask what precinct you're in, they tell me I vote at XYZ location. They don't really know their number, right? So if the polling places aren't changing, I'm not as worried about the confusion. I don't live in that area, right? So I'm not talking to the same people you are. So it's a little hard for me to say what my neighbors think, because they probably don't care what goes on in 5A and B for where they vote. If I have to look at recommendation, I have to take Pam's expertise in putting a recommendation forth based on what she's hearing from people and what she's seeing, looking at state legislation and county recommendation and calls her and her team are taking coming up to the election about where we vote. But
So nothing's really changing but the name.
The title of the
title.
precinct,
The
that's
name of the
correct,
precinct.
yes.
So I can
At
say
the recommendation
you're not
of the
5A, you're
county,
16.
we're eliminating the As and Bs. And I was recommending to go to a straight naming, numerical naming convention. It does simplify some things in the reporting and the viewing. If people are looking, sometimes that A and B can fall to the bottom of a list just because it has that alpha character on it. Folks may not see it. And I do agree with you, Mr. Mayor, that most often what the clerks believe is that people identify with the site where they vote more so than the number. But it is important that if we do change the number, that we do a good job of educating our population. And I did talk with our GIS folks, and it was my intention not only to have the Dakota County PVC cards go out, but with council's approval, and I talked to the city administrator last week or this week about sending an individual mailing from the city and letting them know by each precinct how their changes occurred. So in, precinct 16 and 5, you now vote at, or your precinct number is, and give them that information. But this council can make the decision on whatever best suits whatever they choose. And I can change whatever needs to be changed based on your recommendation.
I'll make a motion what's in front of us tonight, but with the change of the 5A and 5B.
Could I clarify?
you
Question, Mr. Mayor?
certainly can. We don't have a second yet, but go ahead and ask.
The change would be 5A would become 16 and 5B would become 5. Correct?
Correct.
That is correct.
So that's the only change. They're voting at the same places.
They are.
Correct.
Postcard would say,
There's,
you're not 5A anymore, you're 16, and you're not 5B anymore, you're 5.
That's correct. I mean, there are a few people, wherever the gray areas are, there's some changes. And in those two precincts, we do have a couple little changes here because precinct 16 could use more people. 5 was getting to be such a mammoth precinct. I needed to pull a few voters off that, and we had that wonky line up there. And so I wanted to clean that up, and that was a good place to pull some folks back into 16 or.
But Pam, those changes would occur regardless of number, right? You're still
Correct.
recommending those polling place
Correct.
changes regardless of number to balance out the load. And I think the one thing we've done well over the years is balance our polling locations. If I were to, short of that 8 a.m. in the morning on the way to work thing, even in presidential years, we don't typically have long lines, and that's the work you've done to balance out who votes where over time.
Yes.
Well, we don't have a second.
We do not.
And this is for 10 years, until the next.
Yeah.
It is.
Yes.
If we don't have a second, I would make a motion to go with the recommendation of the city clerk. I think her explanation was very good. I think the mayor kind of agreed with it. I just think that, and you're going to have confusion either way. The 5A, 5B people are going to wonder. And part of the other problem is it's not contiguous to 13, 14, 15, 16. That's usually what you see. But I'm going to take your explanation. You put a lot of time into it. And so I would make a recommendation to go with the city clerk's recommendation.
We have a motion from Goodwin to go with staff recommendation.
I'll second that.
We have a motion from Goodwin and a second from Melander. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed?
I'm abstaining.
So that carries 3 with 1 abstention. Thank you, Pam. A lot of work in this, and I know it's not just you who's been through these. I was joking last time we saw this about moving your Post-it notes around on all the maps on your desk, and promise I wouldn't do that to you. So
It's even confusing the second time.
it's just a lot of moving pieces, and absolutely. Let's move on to item 5J, which is to adopt a resolution appointing the member to fill the vacancy on the Cemetery Advisory Committee with a term expiring of March 1st, 2025. And Pam, you get no break this evening. You are up again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On January 27th, the City Council authorized accepting applications through February 28th to fill the vacancy on the Cemetery Advisory Committee. And the vacancy has a 3-year term expiring March 1st, 2025. And notice of the vacancy was posted on the city's website and advertised in the local newspaper, and 3 residents submitted an application by that deadline. Those names are included in your packet, and the resolution describing the procedures to fill positions on the various committees is also included in your packet. Unless a motion is made to change the procedure during each round, you will vote for 1 less than the number of candidates nominated or remaining on the ballot. If the City Council is ready to fill that vacancy, a motion should be made to nominate the candidates. The ballots will then be distributed, and following the final vote, the City Council should adopt a motion appointing the member to the Cemetery Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Pam. Are any questions for Pam? If not, we would take a motion to move the whole slate forward, and then I believe we're going to vote for 1 less than the total. Is that
I'll make a motion to do that and vote for 2 on the first ballot.
perfect? Thank you. A motion from Councilmember Kendall and a second from Councilmember Goodwin. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That carries. Our hardworking city attorney will distribute the ballots. And while those are tallied, Tom, do we have any staff updates?
Mr. Mayor, yes, indeed, we do. In fact, our our Parks and Recreation Director, Eric Carlson, is going to share with us an important message about needing people to come to work for us this summer so we can do all of the park and rec activities this year.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, we are again in front of you and the rest of the community advertising for jobs, for summer jobs in the Park and Rec Department. So if people know anyone that would like to work for the city, work in our Park and Rec Department, it'll focus here shortly. We are hiring in all phases of our Parks and Rec Department. So in our aquatics and recreation and maintenance, at our golf course, at our community center. Again, these are great jobs. It's a great work environment. It's a safe work environment. It's a great resume builder. And sometimes those jobs lead to careers. And so if you know anyone, a relative, a friend, a neighbor, someone that needs a job or somebody that thinks they don't need a job, but they actually do need a job, please point them in our direction, and we'd be happy to employ them for the summer.
Eric, we've talked about this before, but I'm looking at that aquatic center, Redwood Pool, right? Lifeguards, some of those folks require training. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yep. Some of the jobs, as you mentioned, like like lifeguards, do require training. We are providing free training. So not only do you get a job with us, we will train you to do the job in a safe manner. And then you could possibly do that job as you go off to college or other parts beyond Apple Valley.
So you get to enjoy a fantastic summer outside by the pool, right? All
Get a
those
little
good
bit of
things,
sun.
and get paid for it.
Meet some people,
What more could you ask for?
serve the community.
Maybe
Count-
save a life down the road.
Hopefully not. Hopefully you won't be put in that position, but if you are, you'll be trained to do so.
I think Councilmember Goodwin's looking for some part-time,
No, he's
part-time work.
not. It's
All right.
definitely not.
I want to see you in that whistle.
No whistle. Mike?
Mayor, following in the first round, there are 2 names remain on the ballot. So please select one.
Vote for one. Got it.
Remember to initial the ballot.
Thanks, Mike. Tom, what else do we have this evening?
Mr. Mayor, a couple of other quick announcements as well. Just wanted to point to, let everybody know that the Apple Valley Chamber of Commerce will be holding their Home and Garden Expo, and that is coming up on Saturday, April the 2nd. It will be held at Eastview High School, and this year they will be inside Eastview as opposed to outside in the parking lot where they were the prior year. The time is 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and so it's a good long event. There will be over 100 local vendors that will be present at the Home and Garden Expo. I'm sure many of you, all of you have been to that event before. They do a really good job putting in a concentrated place, a lot of people who can assist you with your landscaping needs and your home repair needs. And also I want to highlight that the city will have a presence there. We'll have our typical number of tables, and different departments will be there to answer your questions from the planning department, from public works, from Park and Recreation. We'll also have our building inspector there. So a lot of people are kind of curious about what the requirements are to do certain things on their home projects. But we'll have that staff there that's very easy to connect with and be able to answer those questions that day. So we do want you to be there. Also, police and fire will be present at the event, and you'll know it because there will be a big fire truck sitting out in front. So it's always a good time. They do a very nice job at that, and it's a sure sign of spring around the corner here. So
Thanks, Tom. So that's 9 to 2 on Saturday, April 2nd at Eastview High School.
9 to 3.
9 to 3, thank you. But get there by 2, right? Get there by 2. Well, judging by the fact you sat down instead of coming back this direction, I'm assuming we have a candidate selected.
Mayor, the council has selected David Kurtz. So a motion would be in order.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to appoint David Kurtz to the term expiring March 1st, 2025?
So moved.
Motion from Rindall, we have a second
Second.
from Goodwin. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, thank you, and welcome, David. Thank you for serving, and thanks to all of our applicants. That brings us to staff and council communications. Tom, is there anything else from staff?
We'll just highlight one more thing on the calendar. At your next meeting on the 14th of April, we will have our volunteer recognition ceremony, or reception. That will start at 6:45, and the city is blessed to have a number of citizens that volunteer their time, just like Mr. Kurtz has done for the cemetery committee, to serve on all of our advisory committees. So once a year, we do this event, and would encourage people to come out and say thank you to the folks that give their time to make our community a better place.
Wonderful, thank you. Councilmember Goodwin.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we made a very important personnel decision tonight. Now, we didn't talk about it individually because it was part of our consent agenda. But we retired a chief of police, and I'm sure that our sharp-eyed reporter has seen the consent agenda where we've appointed a new chief. But I don't think anybody out there in the citizens, I don't know if the citizens out there know about it other than reading the paper. So I would just like to say, congratulations, Nick Francis, on being the new chief of police. It's a very important appointment, and usually cities have this as an agenda item. The fact that we have a personnel report, it was kind of sunk in there with the part-time lifeguards. But I do see your appointment as a bit more important than the part-time lifeguards.
Hey, my kid's been a part-time lifeguard.
And I apologize to Eric, but, and I'm not gonna be a part-time lifeguard because I'd have to wear a swimming suit, and there's no way in God's green earth I'll ever be seen in a swimming suit. So anyway, congratulations, Chief.
Thank you. We have somebody from staff over there, Tom?
Mr. Mayor, just one more comment. Chief Francis is going to do a marvelous job. We are so proud of him coming through our department and being in this position to assume the role of police chief. At our first meeting in April, that will be the night for Nick Francis, and we'll be doing the oath of office and the pinning of the badge at that point. So we look forward to that celebration as well.
I'll save my Captain, soon-to-be Chief Francis story for that night then. I have one, but we'll just hold on to it for a couple weeks. Tom?
Say a word of warning to the new chief. I think one of the most dangerous things you can do is have an occasion where you retire a chief and you add alcohol. Who knows where something like that could lead? So I would suggest, sir, you'd probably take it pretty easy that night. Okay?
So noted. Any other council items? If not, we will move on to the calendar of upcoming events. The next informal city council meeting is Thursday, April 14th at 5:30. And the next regular city council meeting is Thursday, April 14th at 7 p.m. So we have a motion to approve the calendar of events.
So moved.
Motion from Grendel, second from Melander. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that item carries. And that brings us to a motion to adjourn. Do I have one of those?
So moved.
Motion from Councilmember Grendel and a second from Melander. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.